This is my review of the Moby Grape album, Truly Fine Citizen. It was released in 1969 and produced by Bob Johnston. So this is of the original 4 Columbia Moby Grape albums, this is the one I have the least experience with. I got this, I want to say probably 2022, ordered it offline. I've never found a cheap CD copy of this, so I just, this was the cheapest way I could get it on vinyl, so I don't listen to my vinyl a lot, so it's not one that I've put on a whole lot. But I did, familiarize myself with it quite a bit when I first got it, and I've been listening to it recently, getting ready for this. Yeah, this album, of all of their 4 Columbia albums, this is the one that I think tends to get, like, the most, or like the least popular one. All the times I've seen this album talked about, it's tended to be kind of not in the most positive way. I think I have a more positive view of this album than most people tend to, though I do kind of think it is the weakest of those 4 Columbia albums. When this came out, the band was kind of falling apart. I think they almost did this only as like a contractual thing because they owed Columbia one more album. Bob Mosley had left the band, so they were now a 3-piece with just the 2 guitars of Miller and Lewis and Don Stevenson on drums. For this album, they have Bob Moore, session bassist, playing, and as a result, he's a very good bass player. So you kind of don't miss like the bass a whole lot, even though Mosley was a great bass player and was a very important part of their sound. Since they got such a good session guy, I don't really notice the bass missing as much. But vocally, you really notice Mosley's loss, I feel like, because he had, in my opinion at least, like the most powerful voice in the band. And his voice kind of made probably the most versatile voice too, really. Like his voice made the most difference, I think, in like their harmonies and stuff. So without him, you're missing a lot of the vocal firepower that the band used to have. And I think that is really noticeable on this album. I like the production on it. I think that Bob Johnston's production of it sounds a little bit better than David Rubinson's on the album before. And this album was recorded in like 3 days, so I think it's kind of impressive like how good it sounds in some places, especially like the playing. I really like the playing on this album. I think Stevenson's drums are really great throughout the whole album. The album opens with the song Changes Circles Spinning, which is a Peter Lewis song. I was familiar with this song before getting this album. It was one of, I believe, 2 songs that were on the greatest hits that I got before buying all their studio stuff. I think this is a really catchy song. I've liked it since the first time I've heard it. It's kind of a country rock song. Just really catchy, got a really good vocal from Peter Lewis. Some really cool guitar going on in it. Just a great song all around and a great way to start the album. I would say it's probably tied for my favorite track on the album, and really, to me at least, this album has like these 2 tracks I would say are up there, or the 2 tracks that I like the most on this album I would say are up there with like any of their great stuff off of any of the other albums. And they have some other stuff on here that would as well, but then like some of the other stuff falls a little bit short of that. Second track, Looper, another Peter Lewis song. This one is, I think, an older song because there are live versions of them. There's a live version of this from 1967 on the Moby Grape live album. So they had this around for a while and hadn't used it. But I like it. I think it's got some cool bass on it. I think it's a catchy song. I like the guitar and the drums on it a lot as well. The vocals are a little weird because they're all kind of like singing together in harmony. So that kind of like threw me off a little bit at first, but I've gotten used to it and I like it a lot now. But another catchy song, another strong track, even though it's not quite on the level of the first song because that one's just so great. Third track, Truly Fine Citizen. This is a Miller Stevenson song, and all of the Miller Stevenson songs on this album are credited to Tim Del Ara, who I don't think is a real person, but They did that because they were having some kind of legal thing where their former manager was suing them. There's all kinds of stuff with this band and their manager. That was like a whole mess. But yeah, all the Miller Stevenson songs in this album are credited to somebody else, so that gets a little confusing. This track was on the greatest hits as well. And I actually thought it was a cover because it was credited to somebody who wasn't in the band. That was like before I read about that whole thing. But this track really short, and so like it took a long time to make an impression on me. I like it quite a bit now. I think it's a pretty catchy song, but it's I think the shortest song on the album, but it's like 2 minutes. I mean, most of the songs on this album are very short. Moby Grape was definitely a band that liked to do them short, just real short songs. But this is like kind of short even for them. But I do like it. It's just like you have to listen to it a lot for it to leave an impression because it's so short. The fourth track, Beautiful, is another Miller Stevenson song, and this one, at first I kind of thought I didn't like this song because it has this kind of, it just has this lyric that like kind of irritated me at first until I kind of got used to it. I think because they rhyme hill and still, which I don't know why that bothered me, but just kind of did. But yeah, once I kind of got over my initial like finding that lyric a little bit irritating, I was like, no, this song really has a catchy vocal melody. It kind of got stuck in my head, and so yeah, I like this one. I think it's a catchy song. I like the guitar and the drums in it. It's just that one lyric still, though, I'm not crazy about the rhyming hill and still. The fifth track, Love Song, another Miller Stevenson track. This is another one with some cool guitars in it. I think the vocals on it are a little weak in places. This one of those tracks where it kind of shows like that they could have used Mosley. His voice here a lot because he just like his voice brought so much to the group. The sixth track, Right Before My Eyes, another Peter Lewis song, and this one is the other one that is like tied for my favorite on here. Another kind of country rock type of song, really catchy. Got some really cool guitar on it. I think Lewis gives a really good vocal. And I really love Don Stevenson's drumming on this song. Just really, like that stood out to me the first time I listened to it, and I just really loved like his whole performance through the whole song. The seventh track, Open Up Your Heart. This is another Miller Stevenson song, and it's kind of grown on me. At first, I kind of wasn't that into it. Another one where I think the vocals not my favorite of their lead vocals, but it has some cool guitar parts in it, cool drumming, and it's one of those songs that it's got kind of like a joking like little vocal thing in the middle, and they kind of start laughing at the end. So it was kind of, I don't want to say like a throwaway, but this is them kind of having some fun, not taking themselves too seriously, I feel like. The eighth track, Now I Know High, Peter Lewis song. This is the longest song on the album. It's like 6 minutes, and it's a really weird song. It's got kind of like a piano part where he's singing that it starts out with, and then it goes into this like guitar solo section that seems like it's from a completely different song. Then it goes back to the vocal part, and then it kind of goes back to another guitar solo part that once again sounds like it's from a completely different song. So I don't know really how to feel about this one. Like, I like the guitar solo parts a lot. In fact, I kind of like that better than the parts with the vocals. It's kind of an interesting song. I don't think it's ever going to be one of my favorites. I like it as an album track, but I don't think it's like one that I would add to like a playlist or anything. The ninth track, Treat Me Bad, another Miller Stevenson song. This is kind of a country rock song. I didn't find it extremely memorable, but it's not bad. It had a pretty cool guitar solo in it from Miller. 10th song, Tongue Tied, is a song by Miller and Skip Spence. They always I feel like try to include at least one Skip Spence thing on every album, like since he's left the band, which I think is pretty cool that they keep like finding ways to bring his stuff in. This song, though I like the drums on it, like the guitars that are playing. I don't think it has the best lead vocal on it. Again, another one that probably could have benefited from having Mosley in the band. But it's I don't know, it's not bad. It's got some like piano, but it doesn't leave like the biggest impression. I think it's one that I need to spend like a little more time with. But not a bad song at all, but not one of my favorites. Then the album closes with Love Song Part 2, which is a Miller and Stevenson instrumental, which mostly kind of stands out for its cool guitar. Not a bad way to end the album, but it's not really something that's super memorable. So Moby Grape, Truly Fine Citizen, definitely the weakest of the 4 Columbia albums, but by no means a bad album. In fact, I think it's pretty underrated. To me, it's got at least 2 great songs on it, quite a few good songs. It's just got some stuff that's less memorable. I think they suffer a little bit vocally not having Bob Mosley anymore. But other than that, it's a strong album. Everything on it, I think it's well played, especially for doing it in 3 days. I think a lot of its negative reputation kind of is more because of what was going on around the album with the band than because of what's on it. So yeah, Moby Grape, Truly Fine Citizen, probably not the best place to start with these guys. I would start with the albums before this, but definitely a solid album and I think pretty underrated.